Hello? Nope. Hello? Hello? Oh, yeah. I keep saying, every time I introduce this show, I always say, hello, hello. It's the stupidest thing in the world. It's like we were just talking about,
Every time.
Heston Cherry, with another episode of Addiction Recovery Hope and Resources. The hope is capitalized because we want to bring hope to everyone out there. I'm sharing this real quick and then we'll rock and roll. I am with Charmaine Gull, and she is with, she's the program director for, and we'll break this down, for Washington County Court Support Services, which in her terms is WCCSS.
Good
right?
job.
Okay, well, get into what you're doing here and what I know you're going to bring resources that are going to help people to understand. She goes to the legislature and she fights for rights and she fights for money for the state. She works under the sheriff, correct?
Well, actually, it's a county-operated program,
Okay.
and we were born underneath the attorney's office, but actually operate for the entire court system.
Okay.
So
Good to know.
we represent defense, prosecutor, and the judges.
So cool.
Yeah.
And what do you do?
Well,
Where did it all start?
so we'll just put you as in like you're the person that's coming in. If you've committed a crime in the 5th District Court, we provide pretrial services to help you with your case. So basically, if you're released or if you're out on your own in the community, once you're assigned counsel, the defense attorney refers you over to perform those clinical and criminal risk assessments. And once we have that information, it's a self-reporting, but we have access to a lot of collateral information. And we see a lot of people that are ready for change tend to, pour their hearts out and tell us, ultimately what's going on in their lives. And we communicate that to the courts and result in everything from, it's very individualized. If it's a safe living environment, if it's, domestic violence counseling, if it's substance abuse, mental health related. Our goal is to have people get treatment opportunities rather than incarceration.
Yeah, and the world's coming to more of that because these people are not more, for the most part, they're not violent criminals. They're just addicted to the substance they have.
Yeah, we definitely want to triage because we do want the bed space in the jails for the people that are criminals, that are public safety risks, and we want the people that are actually willing to get help and to do the work to provide those resources to make sure that that can happen. So
yeah, so cool. And I've been talking to Charmaine. I talked to her on the phone once, and then talking to her before the show a little bit. She cares. She's the right lady for the program director of this program. She talks to me and she cares. She wants to help each individual person as an individual person and not just, she goes to a job 9 to 5 and she's done. I know you run like a chicken with its head cut off.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
Everyone I run into that works in the industry, because we definitely work with treatment programs and there's amazing programs out there. And we work with supervision agencies because they go hand in hand. Mm-hmm. Generally, when you're in the criminal justice system, both of them are combined.
So when you say the supervision, is that the parole officer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we actually serve that role on some of the cases. Yeah, so once they reach a decision in the courts, the outcomes are something that we carry out on their plea and abeyances, and they're assigned to a probation case manager that can serve as both roles, doing all of the drug testing, restitution and fine repayments, and community service and things like that, making sure. But we also know that there's a big social work aspect to supervision, which APMP now utilizes and carries the case more than just monitoring and supervision. They connect them to the resources and they make sure that they can have the most successful outcome on their cases. So if it says treatment admissions, we get them insurance. We make sure that they find what treatment programs that they would benefit from, because everybody is very, some are faith-based 12-step programs.
Right.
Some want nothing to do with it, and they thrive in a cognitive behavioral therapy environment, or if it's trauma-informed care. So it's very, very customized to that person.
That's so cool, because that's what I always say. I got my sobriety through the LDS Church's program.
ARP.
But yeah, that's where that saved my life.
Yeah.
But I always tell, I don't care where you go, 'cause I just want you sober. Yeah. Go with what works for you.
And keep trying.
Yeah.
Keep going.
And if the one doesn't, plug into the next one and see if you'll connect in there.
That's true.
So
one
cool.
of the things that we have in discussion back when we were born in 2017 is, we can't really house offenders that need treatment services, because ultimately, one of the biggest mental health institutions is Rikers Island, because what we've done thus far is collect a lot of information. We wanted to know what they're lacking, what they could benefit from, so we can actually develop those resources in the community. And one of them is a medical detox treatment center for unfunded people.
Yeah.
For the ones that fall through those gaps in the system. Studying it a little bit more with the medical Intermountain Healthcare, and finding information of how many people are using the emergency room for detoxification services, and the Access Care Center, because ultimately we lack some resources, and we want to make sure that we're working on it together, and not putting them in jail to be able to dry out, so to speak.
So I love that you're getting them in the detox, because that's so important to get them a few days under their belt without the substance, and then their head's a little bit clearer to make the decision and to go into treatment.
Yeah. And then implement medication-assisted treatment at that time if that's their choice.
Yeah, exactly.
It really does benefit. There's faces that pop up as we talk of people that have gone through, and they're imprinted because, when you see somebody that's in crisis and they're in active use, and they're literally dying, it's all, but everybody goes into survival mode at that time and tries to help them. And I'd always said, if you want to do medication-assisted treatment, I'd much rather you do that than heroin.
Right.
So
I agree with that 100%. I don't care. A lot of people will say you can't count that as a clean day. Everyone's sobriety is their sobriety. Right. No one should tell them what their stuff is. Right. If we're on someone else's side of the street, we're probably not in the right place for our recoveries. True.
It's very, very individualized. And hopefully working with them, they realize that, it's only a point in time in their life. Yeah. So if it's working on a taper, if it's working through their treatment program and their regimen, treatment's just a part of it. But life is what we have to endure.
Yeah. So. And I always tell people, because for me, I got to invent who I wanted to be. I got to invent the qualities that I wanted to be. I wanted to be a man of integrity. I wanted to be on time to things. I wanted to be honest. I wanted to be someone that someone could call and say, Heston, can you come help me with this? And without a doubt, they'd know that I'd say, absolutely, I'll be there. Yeah. And that's who I get to be.
That's awesome.
It's so cool. I'm still a pain in the butt, like in competition stuff. People can't stand playing sports with me, but I'm working on myself. But yeah, so I was going to ask you about that. You've been doing this how long?
Well, I've been in behavioral health since for about 8 years now. Prior to that, I was in medical at Intermountain Healthcare. So the justice system, they're all combined. Mm-hmm. Especially with the paying systems. So I love it when people, say that my population, well, everybody's population's the same. Yeah. And it's the same people. But so if we're working together, then we're really kind of get to know that person really well and direct them, give them the guidance and support that they need. Yeah. I actually got into court support services in 2015 when the laws changed for the Justice Reinvestment Initiative. And I believe in it. I definitely know that we should provide the opportunities. So when you had the reinvestment initiative rolled out, you had to paint the picture of who's responsible for what, who's doing that. But we're all responsible for it together if we have the same goal in mind to reduce recidivism.
Yeah, we all know someone. If we're not the addict, we all know someone that's struggling. Yeah. We're all in it together.
We are. And I always tell, because my husband, if I'm working like a horse, then my family's not getting 100% of me either. So they definitely support the whole thing. And I always tell my husband why I do it is because there's no other benefit than watching someone's heart change.
No.
And reminding them of what their purpose is and how they can fulfill their strengths, and just have them talk about their strengths goes a long way.
One of the most important things is to get them to realize that they do have good qualities. You know, when we're down at our bottom and when we're in the court system, we're at our bottom.
Yeah.
And to hear, hey, you've got good qualities too. You need to try to point those out and run with those and don't go against.
Thanks, Sean.
Sorry, but I'm a mess. But yeah, so we got to pick out their strengths, and then we can help guide them, and the resources places guide them to tap into those strengths.
They do. And my one of my most things that I've learned is that everybody has some sort of case management component. But it's got to be a two-way connection rather in a warm handoff that's a follow-through instead of just referral services. And here you go, and this is what you do. And this is, because there's a lot of things that they're experiencing in the justice system or in recovery in itself. If they're coming into sobriety and their head's not clear and they're definitely, they have a lot of fear. Like, I've done this before. I might not be able, I'm going to fail you. I mean, there's so many things, bridges that have been burned and people that feel like they're dangling out there by themselves without a house, without food, without,
Clothes.
My
wife and I worked at the Purgatory Jail for, me and her did it for 2 years, but I did it for 3.5 for the girls out there.
Yeah.
And they would start crying about 10 days to release because they were scared. They would rather stay. Yeah. And because they didn't have resources to know where to go. They do now, and you can direct them to those. But, it was sad to watch these girls that have so much. I mean, I helped so many that I still keep in contact with that have got, they thought they'd never see their kids again.
Wow.
They thought they'd never have a house or a job or could hold a job. And now they have 2 jobs. Their kids are in their custody and they're married and they're doing it and working their tails off and they're like productive members of society.
Yep.
And it happens more than not in the people that are getting the right help.
It does. And then they have that consistent support, reminding them and, holding their accountability piece there and setting goals with them. I mean, do you have goals?
So I tend to stay away from long-term goals just because, ask my wife, she wants to set the 5-year, 10-year plan. I'm like, I got to stay in today. I have to live right now. I can't live it. But when I was in recovery, and I still do, I set small goals, and mine were a lot spiritual, and then tangible, or I don't know what the word is, achievable or whatever. But some were spiritual goals that I had for my religion or whatever.
I heard you're a spiritual giant.
So. Yeah, I don't think I'm a giant, but I don't know. It's funny because I don't know anything that the people that are in my religion know, but I know how to love, and so I think that's all that matters. But
I love those.
Yeah. So, but I did set goals, and one by one, I knocked them over, and I didn't set 50 million goals at a time. I set one, and then I'd hit it, and then I'd set another, and I'd hit it. And it was so cool because every day was like I was doing something for the first time I hadn't done in 25 years.
That's awesome. So, and that's kind of what we do. When they come in phase 2, they sit down and have a breakdown of not just their court order of, okay, you have 24 months probation and you're serving it through us because we don't charge for services. So that's a huge benefit. I always said when I was appointed to this position, I said, I would love to do it without ever charging because there's no way that they can afford it, and that we use it as sanctions when they violate or they have some sort of relapse. And so I always just say, let's take that off the docket, and we'll work for funding and find things that can keep it going without having to ask for them to pay for it.
So cool, because most of the time they don't even have a wristwatch.
No. Well, they sold it.
Yeah.
And then they sold their grandmother's wristwatch, too.
Exactly, yeah.
So I know. So they break down not just only their court case, but they say, you know what, where are you going to live tonight? How did you get, do you have a car? And they ask questions. Well, my car's broke. Okay, let's look towards some funding and get that fixed. Yeah. So the goals you have to work on the immediate ones, just like you did. And there's nothing like watching somebody feel like they achieved something, like 4 or 5 things in 1 hour.
They've got to do it by themselves, and that's the action part of the recovery is you have to do it. Yes. But it's so cool watching them overcome their fears.
Yes. And they walk away and they're like, oh my gosh, I have insurance today.
Yeah.
Like I came
I didn't think it was that easy.
Now I answered the question, how am I going to pay for treatment? You know, they are actually going to be able to use their insurance and then go to the doctor, go to the dentist. Years. I mean, a lot of our recovery support service funding goes towards dentistry. Years.
Look at my teeth. I got holes.
Good.
No, okay, I got holes in all my teeth, and I got no teeth in the back. Like,
really?
Yeah, I ruined my teeth. But these 4 in the front, I paid for them, and they're real. Right. And so you should have saw me when I was first in recovery. I weighed 95 pounds.
Wow.
Had a full beard, and I was a mess.
Have you ever done like a comparison photo?
No, because I didn't even have photo. I lost everything. I didn't even have a picture of my kids. I didn't have anything. I had a couple grocery bags of clothes when I was started, and I was living out of a hotel with my 7-year-old son. That's all I had was my son and my clothes. And that's it.
Yeah.
So I lost everything, but I would like to if someone could find a picture because that would be cool.
To see
but I don't have it. I didn't get arrested very many times, so I don't really know where to live. Like look for a before and after, but that'd be cool.
That's one of the things that we always say is that if you can actually visually see what you've different, then it's more impactful. If you can touch it, if it's more applicable, then people really take ownership of that, and they're like, it's pride, and I love that kind of pride.
It's so cool, and like you were saying that they don't get charged for it, but the cool thing is when these people make it, they give back.
Yeah.
And they help others that are in their situation, and so they're really paying for it. Yeah. But it's helping them too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the certified peer support specialist is so much research and evidence-based shows that if you have somebody in recovery that's in a really good place, receive that training, that specialized certification, they're the ones that are the armies.
Yeah.
They're the boots on the ground.
They have that instant connection to break down and say, I've been there. Yep. And I can help you right now. This is what you need to do. And then the person has to do what they say, even though in their mind, there's no way I can do this. I'm not doing this. That's the wrong way. But actually, their way is the wrong way.
I love it. One of my favorite things is when, I get the opportunity. I'm sure my staff doesn't like it because it could be, me over bounds and stuff. But I always get involved because I love people. Regardless of this industry or not, I've always known that, people are my thing to really kind of get to know them and help them. And so I ask questions like, what are you doing? Is that good for you?
Yeah.
They know the answer.
Yeah, exactly. They do.
They do. And then they check themselves. And that is the learning part. That's whenever they can teach. They're self-taught. They know what they're doing. And I say they just because I feel like I'm right there with one of them. So
yeah, every one of them. And I know that because I talked to you and you care.
I do.
And that's so cool. You said now, Charmaine, you said something about phase 2. How many phases are there?
2.
So there's 2 phases.
So basically, we coordinate people in the justice system. So if they're going into, and after pretrial determines drug court's the best option for them and they plead in, then we carry and monitor that case and see the outcomes. If they've reoffended, if they need any resources, we make sure that we provide that. Mental health court, same thing. But for the general misdemeanor, felony court, and everything, we make sure that we provide that extra layer that's been missing for a while.
Yeah.
One of the best rewards about my job is who I get to work with, and the Washington County Attorney Brock Belknap. They've seen it for years.
Yeah.
So we aren't actually really teaching them anything new except for just a different lens to look through and say, how much money do we want to put in on building more prisons and housing them, or do we want to actually create programs and connections to the entire justice system and see those outcomes?
Yeah.
Those are a lot more...
So much more productive.
Yep.
And they give back.
And they're people.
Yeah.
So I love when they talk about numbers and costs, and I'm like, those are people to me.
Yep.
So if we can serve them, then that's what we need to do.
Nice. Super love that. One of the coolest things I was doing, like I told you, I went out of the jail a lot, and the girls, I'd be following them, and they'd be like, I'm graduating drug court. Will you come?
I love it.
And so I'd go, and I'd sit in there and watch the judge talk to him, and there's like 3 of them that graduate at a time or something, and then there's like 50 other addicts that are in the program in phase 1 and 2, but they're there for their time to talk to the judge, but they get to watch the people that graduate, and they get to go, that's who I want to be. That's the one I want to be. I want to be like that guy that's just like me, and he did it, so why can't I do it?
Exactly.
It's such cool. It gives me chills because that's a cool experience. Anyone that can go to one of those, it should.
I agree. That's actually, we have a lot in common, more than what I thought, because that's actually why I started. I was doing programming out at the jail myself, and there was this female, I won't mention names because I didn't ask her permission.
That's all right.
But I'll never forget her because she was the game changer. She's the one that I always go back when I'm wore down and I'm, feel like it's a fight and it's a struggle and all the politics of everything. But I get reminded of those times that I'm taught.
The reason why you're there.
Yeah. And so I was doing groups, and she was like the biggest, loudest one of the bunch. So everybody followed her because she was just the leader, born leader. And I reminded her, like, people are going to follow you on whatever you say. So I want you to do really well. And I want you to have good behavior because they're going to follow it.
You don't understand how many people you can help.
You really can help.
For good.
And she, of course, found God. And she's actually a really spiritual person and had a lot of feelings coming to a head to deal with.
Yeah.
And then she was released. Within 2 weeks, she was back. Yeah. And I said, what happened? What happened? I thought, I was confused. Never seen that side of it. And she said, it didn't matter.
When not having to check in.
No.
And
it
not
wasn't
having
even
to
that.
be. Oh, it wasn't?
No, she went home. Her mother was passed out drunk in the bathtub. Oh, yeah. She just lost her dad a year prior to an overdose. Her mother was drunk and incapacitated and no food in the fridge. She had to walk home. No transportation or anything, and she was not supposed to call anybody, not supposed to connect with anybody. And all she's known is, people that she's used with for a long time. Right. So it was inevitable. Right. It was inevitable. It only takes minutes at that time when you're seriously there's no options, there's no ways out. It feels like that. Yeah.
But there is.
She's thriving. Her children are back. She's got her own place. She's making more money than I am.
Right on.
And I tell her, I said, you are my muse. You're my example. And you've taught me so much more than I'll ever be able to take away. Yeah.
I love it. Charmaine, we got about 3 minutes, and I want you to finish off with what resources do you guys give that we have talked about, but that we haven't talked about?
Sure. So if you have an open case in the 5th District Court and you're working with adult probation and parole or mental health court, and you find yourself in a bind, and you're working with treatment programs or just your supervision officer, tell them you need some housing assistance, funding for medical, dental costs, daycare, transportation. We want you to actually be successful, and life's going to happen. Yeah. Life is going to be just that moment, but it can get through it, and you stay on track. You stay on task and set your goals and achieve them, and come and ask for funding if you need it. Again, just, working with your POs, they actually really do care.
They do.
And, if you fall into a point where you're absconding or you're not wanting to reach out, you're not in a good place. Right. You know that you may have relapsed and things like that. Don't stop. Give it up. Keep coming back.
Right. Yeah. I say the same thing because it's very common for people to slip up, and I don't call it relapse. I just, it's part of recovery for most people. Most people cannot just start or stop and never use again. They're they don't have the tools. But the ones that they do it again and slip or whatever, and they recognize it and they learn, oh, I shouldn't have done this part, which led to this. Right. And so that I should have caught this 2 months before. Right. And so now the next time they're going to make it way longer. Exactly. And be able to succeed more.
They learned. Yeah. Definitely. They're worthy of everything just as much as you and I.
Absolutely. We're the same in that aspect, as they're all worth it. Nice. They're all worth it. And both of us would do anything for any one of them.
I agree.
So we have a lot of the same friends, and I know a lot of people that know you, and you're very highly recommended. So I would wish that you would come back on,
of course,
and help us, and we'll get another topic and we'll run with it, because you did awesome.
I got some great people for you to meet too, because my staff is what does it.
We'll do it.
It's nothing other than telling people what we could use and help, but it's the boots on the ground.
Yeah, and they're willing.
I wouldn't be able to do any of this without my staff. So
I love it.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch up next Monday again. And I thank Charmaine, and we'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Heston.
Uh-huh.